So we're going to do a short take here on the Consumer Reports article that recently came out on gluten. More specifically, will a gluten-free diet really make you healthier? And we do a lot of work. I'm Dr. Martin Rutherford. I am a chiropractic physician since 1979. I am also a certified functional medicine practitioner.
Dr. Reno Gates, I'm a board certified chiropractic neurologist as well as being a chiropractor.
And in our experience of dealing with these two paradigms kind of marrying each other, we have developed a chronic pain practice. These two paradigms allow us to attend to brain function that is affecting chronic pain and chronic diseases and weight loss and all these types of things, as well as many of the things that people are more familiar with, the thyroid, the gut problems, the immune problems, and allows us to do it all at once in an organized fashion, specified to the patient. And it's been something that has allowed us to get consistently successful results in the cases that we accept. One of the big things that we started, one of the big clinical pearls, success pearls that we have been utilizing for a long time, long before anybody even knew what gluten was. It used to be like, what is that? Is gluten-free diets. So we feel that clinically we can comment on this with a fair degree of certainty, given the fact that we work with gluten-free diets, we work with grain-free diets, we work with a number of different diets, and Dr. Gates does the treatment aspect in our clinic. And so I'm sure he'll have a lot to say on these subjects. So the article had several points.
Right, the 6 hidden risks, or the hidden risks of being gluten-free. I think that's, Consumer Reports has done a number of topics on gluten, but this most recent one is on these hidden risks.
Right, and my personal opinion on Consumer Reports over a period of a lifetime is that I can't make any comments about their comments on automobiles and home products or anything, but they should really stay out of the healthcare field based on what I've read over a long period of time. So just a little bit of a disclosure there. But here they tackle gluten-free. The first thing they talk about is gluten-free diets are not nutritious enough.
Right. And really, we need to go back 5 years for this argument to make any sense. So basically, 5 years ago, people started going gluten-free in large part. I mean, yes, it's been done for a long period of time, but Alicio Fasano, he's a medical doctor, gastroenterologist, pioneer researcher in gastroenterology, came out, I think he's at Harvard or one of the Massachusetts universities, where he came out and he said, basically, celiac disease, we used to think 1 in 1,000 people had celiac disease. That's where the immune system attacks gluten and it kills the GI tissue, your small intestines. It used to be 1 in 1,000, now it's 1 in 100. And so we said, whoa, this is much more common than we previously thought. So then we had this whole explosion in gluten research, and we saw these associations between the immune cells, the gluten, and the thyroid. And then we started seeing reports of gluten maybe being associated with neurological disorders like balance problems and neuropathy, maybe associated with psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So a lot of stuff out there. But basically, when I came into practice 5 years ago, yesterday, or 2 days ago at this clinic, on December 8th, at that point, gluten-free was just being discussed. You were just starting to use gluten-free diets. And at that point, also, more importantly, there weren't a lot of gluten-free products out there, hardly at all. There was like Ezekiel bread, which really wasn't even gluten-free. It was just from a different type of wheat.
Right.
And so patients on a gluten-free diet in 2008, 2009 primarily had to eat meats, vegetables, and fruits. They could have cheese, technically just being on a gluten-free diet, potatoes, things of that nature. However, with a lot of celebrities saying that they've gone gluten-free and have felt really good, it's become this quote-unquote dietary fad. And I think Consumer Reports cited in one of their articles that 63% of people feel that going gluten-free will make them healthier. And so they're trying to debunk that. Well, with the advent of gluten-free breads, pastas, and cereals, Consumer Reports is basically correct on a lot of their points, which we're going to go into. But also just know, you as the person watching out there and confused on gluten, just going on a gluten-free diet doesn't mean that you need to basically supplant all the foods that you normally eat with gluten-free products, which are more expensive and higher in sugar and less nutritious. But you need to go back to the diet that we should be eating.
Right. They're correct. The gluten-free article is correct on its points, because they're assuming that everybody goes to eat gluten-free.
And I was guilty of that.
I know you were.
But they may not know that. And so I was guilty of that. I was a gluten-free person for a couple of years, dairy-free, eating a loaf of gluten-free bread a day, gluten-free cereal, and it was a real disservice to my physiology. And I can speak now that I've gone.
Well, I can attest to that.
I know I've gone grain-free, a number of other things free. I feel like $1 million.
Yeah. So the article is makes several points relative to is it more healthy? Are you healthier doing that? And the answer really is dependent on what you do when you stop eating gluten. Do you actually? It's kind of like the vegetarian who stops eating meat but ends up eating cakes and cookies and pretzels and pasta. And I've seen them. I've seen them all over the place. I'm vegetarian, and I also have celiac. And a number of people come and say, I'm a vegetarian. And then I look at their food diary and they eat like 3 vegetables a week. So yeah, they're vegetarian from the perspective that they don't eat meat, but they're not vegetarian from the perspective that they eat a healthy diet. And really that was the crux of the article. Mm-hmm. The crux of the article was, if you eat gluten-free products, then you're not going to get good nutrition and all these other things.
Exactly. So their first point is that it's more nutritious, or gluten-free isn't more nutritious. And basically, just as Dr. Rutherford said, if you're eating all these gluten-free cakes, pastas, and cereals, yeah, it's probably not more nutritious. Whereas if you really go grain-free, let's just say go grain-free, and you're eating a well-balanced diet, likely Consumer Reports would have nothing to attack that diet on. Number 2 is you'll probably increase your exposure to arsenic. Basically, a lot of these gluten-free pastas and cereals are made with rice. Rice sequesters arsenic as a mineral. And so if you're eating a lot of rice-based products, then you can potentially increase your arsenic load. That seems kind of like a slippery slope, because I know individuals in other nations, they eat a lot of rice. And I haven't really looked at what their arsenic load is, but
I was just going to say,
overall, they, as a population, seem to outlive us Americans. You might gain weight. Yeah, they're absolutely right. I can attest to that. If you
eat the gluten-free products.
Absolutely.
So again, the whole idea, and to go back to what Dr. Gates said in the beginning. In fact, we just had our patient my first patient that I went gluten-free with, which I don't know if you realize, that was Jennifer, who just came back.
Oh, I thought it was her father.
Well, it was that family.
Okay.
So it was that family who had phenomenal results. Just came back in, and it just really made me realize how much has changed since we just were taking people off of gluten. But back then there was no choice. It was, oh my God, there was nothing. Yes, there was meats, fruits, vegetables, and so on and so forth. Life was good. Maybe that's why we got so much better results with just going gluten-free
at that time. But then it shifted.
Because it shifted, yeah. And now we have much more specified diets, and it's not just about gluten-free. A lot of our patients, it's about grain-free, and there's a lot of nuances relative to each individual. But overall, we found the gluten-free to be very positive. If you don't go eating junk, if you don't do the vegetarian thing, like I'm vegetarian, but I eat pretzels and potato chips and pastas and all that is my primary food group.
Yeah, because I took over treatment primarily here in 2011. And that's when we were doing these reintroduction diets where we took away everything. And I kept seeing that when everybody introduced these gluten-free products, they crashed. We worked for 5 months to get them to a point where they had lost weight, they felt great, their energy was good, their neuropathy was gone. And then they started eating gluten-free products and everything came back. And I was just pulling out my hair thinking, what on earth is going on? Is everybody allergic to rice and corn? Well, it turns out there are more complicated mechanisms, and it involves bacteria in the gastrointestinal tract, and which can lead to breakdown of the intestines, overactivation of the immune system, insulin resistance. It goes on and on. We've done topics on that ad nauseum. But yeah, you might gain weight. And a lot of those gluten-free products are high in sugar too. aside from being high in just grains and carbohydrates. You'll pay more. That's true. Gluten-free bread is more expensive than regular bread on average, as is the gluten-free cereal. I don't think that's indefensible. But if you're eating, again, a well-balanced diet, it shouldn't be, hopefully not that much more expensive. We're not saying you have to eat at Whole Foods or shop at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. We have patients who shop at Winco who get exactly the same, if not better results as those that shop at Whole Foods.
Yeah, we have a couple of those types of, I was shocked. What's the one that right by where our house is?
Save Mart.
Our house, my wife and my house,
Mm-hmm.
Save Mart. Yeah, Save Mart. And we get a lot, I mean, the same food's there. So you have to become a savvy consumer, but you don't need to spend more. I don't think we spend.
The number one seller of organic in the country is Walmart.
Oh, really?
There you go.
I did not know that.
Our producer, Kevin Anderson,
Exactly.
number one seller in the country. So I don't necessarily think it has to be more expensive if you go to eating what you should be eating, frankly. If you're not a vegetarian, you eat lean meats, then you're going to go forget some good meats. Maybe they're a little bit more expensive. But again, Walmart, Save Mart, how much more expensive could they be? And fruits and vegetables are very cost effective.
When everybody makes an argument about all these little health topics, so they'll say, you got to be a vegetarian because that helps cancer. You can't eat the meat at the grocery store because it has too many omega-6 fatty acids. All those arguments have merit in certain situations. But what we're talking about here is that 2/3 of the population is going to be obese in a couple of decades. Right. And so this issue relative to gluten and grains is pivotal.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
So number 5 is you might miss a serious health condition by just going gluten-free. So maybe you have something wrong with you and you're saying, I'm going to go on a gluten-free diet and I'm going to ignore my symptoms. That's, as some of our colleagues here on other blogs have commented, it's kind of a scare tactic for you, to scare you that you don't know what you're doing and that the establishment knows more than you do. And he cited that we used to have the no-fat diets and margarine was better than regular fat, and all these different.
You're going forever.
You're going forever. Yeah, exactly.
And that's, you have to be. We're at a point right now where what Consumer Reports is saying there is if you don't listen to your doctor, and we are not anti-medicine. Okay, we work with osteopaths, we work with medical doctors, we work with cardiologists and internists. You name it, we work with them on a percentage of our cases. However, the concept that everything has to be researched and given the stamp of approval from the research community has caused a country that is very sick, very confused. 2/3 of the country is going to be obese in a very short period of time. There's 120 million chronic pain patients out there and counting, and this topic is a lot of the reason why a lot of those people are feeling, not all of them, but a lot of those people are feeling the way that they feel, or they're taking their medications and the medications aren't working, and so on and so forth. This one topic related to gluten and ultimately grains, which was not the subject of the article. It is a huge deal. It's so huge, we went to an international conference a year ago, September, up in Portland, and it was on food and nutrition and functional medicine and its relationship to chronic disease. And we spent 5 days and they reviewed 2,000 articles. Basically, 95% of it was on food and its effect on all of the things that are developing in our society today. So I would summate, and I'll let you summate after me if you wish, but I would summate that this article is completely off. It's not representative. It's dangerous to me, to a person who reads that. They're not conversant in the whole field of gluten-free versus grains. They're assuming that they should state that if you are going to go gluten-free and eat all of these junk that's called gluten-free products on the shelves, then this article is going to be accurate. But if you go gluten-free and you eat what you should be eating, which is not all that junk, and you eat meat and you eat fruits and you eat vegetables and eat nuts and whatever it is that's fresh and good for you, then that article is totally not accurate. It's not relevant, and it's completely wrong.
Exactly. Well said.
Okay.
And you might still be eating gluten anyway.
Another point. I'm sorry, yeah. I summated too quick.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's good. So basically, this one's just Semi-ridiculous.
Okay.
Basically, if you're consuming small amounts of gluten and you have celiac disease, that can be a big deal. If you're more,
you have to be really sensitive.
You have to be very sensitive when we're talking about lip balms, hair care products, lotions, things of that nature. You have to be very sensitive. In our experience, for those things to bother you.
Yeah, very sensitive, and that's actually a good point, because I've had people come in here and I start talking to them about how it looks like in their case we may end up going gluten-free or grain-free. I said, no, I went to the local hospital, and they have a class on gluten-free, and they're talking about, I had to change talking about stress. I had to change my entire kitchen. I had to get rid of everything. I had to get separate knives. I had to get separate plates. I have to, and if I cut the bread with a knife, and then I can't have my husband because he's got celiac. I have celiac, by the way, and he has to cut their food, and then he has to be careful about eating it. And that's what the hospital is teaching. Talk about stressful.
And for celiac, that can apply, but for most of you out there, you don't have celiac.
But it's rare.
You have issues with grains.
But even in celiac, you have to be pretty sensitive. So and so I'm not saying that's not a good way to do it if you're celiac. If you're not celiac, that's ridiculous. If you're celiac, though, even if you're celiac, there's probably a small percentage of people like that, and you're gonna know. And you're gonna know. And if you know, then yeah, you're that person who needs to rearrange all that. If it seems like everything that you eat makes you bloat and makes you not feel good, then you may be one of those folks who really do have to separate the plates and the forks and all that type of stuff.
And if you are a celiac patient, you have those symptoms, you might want to consider eliminating the gluten-free breads, pastas, and cereals, because lots of times those are causing those issues.
Exactly.
I'm not telling you to do that.
Yeah, no, they're called cross sensitivities, and that's another whole topic. So
I think we hit it.
So that's a bad article. It's a misrepresentative article. It's taking something out of context. It's saying it's a dumb article, frankly. Okay, but it's going to confuse a lot of people. So hopefully this will alleviate your confusion.
And it's going to continue. I mean, if the gluten-free.
And by the way, we are gluten coaches, are we not?
Yes, we are.
We are certified gluten coaches.
Thank you, Dr. O'Brien. But the gluten-free, grain-free movement is going to continue. And you're going to see more and more of these articles come out, because you're talking about, we have an industry here. We have an industry in this country of making these foods made from gluten and grains. And the more people that go gluten-free, grain-free, that's, going to create stress. I'll just say it that way. So,
all right. So if you have any questions on this, please feel free to contact us at powerhealthtalk.com.
Or go to our Facebook page.
Okay.
And
Dr. Gates is usually pretty good about getting back to you if you have any specific questions.
Thank you for watching.